Welcome back. We have a show for you today. And, as always, a question. Do you have dreams? Do you have aspirations? Do you have goals? Are they starting to get a little stale? Are they not happening? What's going wrong? How do you make dreams reality? Today, we're going to explore that. We're going to explore that with someone who is in the positive zone. My name's Vin Dacquino. His name is Bill Pope.
Hello.
Bill, it is such a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you very much.
You have a mindset that I've been trying to get my hands around. It covers everybody. Writers, teachers, lawyers, doctors, doesn't matter. The important thing is trying to put your finger on what will work for you. Talk to me a little bit about who you are and how you got to this amazing mindset you're in today.
Well, first off, the name of the book is The Positive Zone.
Yep.
And I created the book to help myself just become a better person. I've
To get into a positive zone.
That's exactly right. So,
That works.
About 10 years ago, I went to a seminar out in Arizona, and it was a marketing seminar, but it turned out that was really the most important part of that seminar was about how you can build yourself up just to be a better person, to grow as a person.
And I suppose it also had to do with finding out who you were as a person
Definitely.
and where you wanted to take this person.
That's exactly true. So I wanted to create something that would give people goals and plans to make their life a little bit better. So I have this thing called the Positive Zone, and it's an acronym for positioning ourselves strategically, intelligently trained in valuable environments. And basically what that means is that you have to be out with the right people in the right places.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I have found, even for myself, is that when you want to do something big, many people will tear you down. They'll tell you it's just not possible.
Oh, yeah. The naysayers.
The naysayers.
And there's so many people out there who do that.
That's very true.
Who tell you don't go there, when in truth, they should be telling you, go there.
That's exactly right.
And I mean, you have to set your sights high. And in reality, I used to tell my son when he was growing up, I said, listen, here's what I want you to do. You need to set immediate goals, things that you need to do for today to get you here. But I also want you to set goals that are far-reaching. And I want you to keep them pretty much in line. So when you get to here, you have a place to go, a place to dream. And if you can keep those two in line, there's no limit to where you can go.
That's the truth.
And if nothing else, you must always move forward.
Exactly.
Now, you come from an interesting background because you're actually an owner of a company.
That's right. I own a cleaning service, and I've been doing that for 32 years.
So you went from cleaning service to Positive Zone.
That's exactly right.
And by running a company, you realize that there are certain things, a certain mindset that people have to succeed.
That's very true.
And there's also a lot of outside sources, things that are outside forces, things that can work against you. And you have to always be ready to pick up and keep moving forward.
That's exactly right. One of the things that I have found for me personally is that you need to have a big goal. Mm-hmm. You need to make a plan to get there. But the biggest thing is you have to do something every single day to move you forward.
Yeah. When I decided I wanted to be a writer, a very good friend of mine, Roberta Silman, who is a wonderful writer, she said to me, take baby steps and then eventually move forward into bigger and bigger steps. What I did was I wrote a poem a day. And the rule is, doesn't matter how big, doesn't have to rhyme, doesn't have to have meter or write a poem a day. And don't ever skip a day. So I said, a poem a day? Well, it creates discipline. And it helps you to understand that something needs to be accomplished each day to eventually get where you're going. It worked.
It does work.
It worked. Because what happens is you start to do, I went from a poem a day to a journal. And then I had to do an entry a day. Well, the entries sometimes were 15, 20 entries. Sometimes one, but I always had to do an entry. Well, that helped me to find me, to see how I think. And when I'm doing these entries, what I was really doing was exploring who I was. And if you really want to become someone else, or the best someone you can be, you have to start somewhere. And the best place to begin is trying to find out who you are.
That's very true.
And that's what you did. You went in search of yourself.
I did, and I will tell you, one of the things that I found, I was once a negative person. I really was a very negative person, and I was.
It's easy to become negative. We live in a world, I mean, we have such a positive government, and sometimes our role models are scary. And when we look at some of the things that are examples of life, we're like, forget it, man. You can get killed walking across the street, you can get shot, or be in a building that gets hit by an airplane. And you say, come on, man, what kind of world is this? Where you could die at your office desk being innocent, or what causes a baby to die? And once you start watching the news, I mean, I watch the news, I get depressed.
I don't watch the news anymore.
I know. I'm hearing my son used to watch the news religiously. He was actually afraid. He was worried about hurricanes and tornadoes and about everything because it scared him half to death. And there has to be, what a good idea for a title, a positive zone.
So yeah, that's very true.
Exactly
and
right.
you know,
I have to find the positive zone in a negative world.
That's right. And one of the keys is to be hanging out with the right people. You know, it doesn't matter if it's family, if it's friends, if it's business associates. Each one of those areas has people that are very negative, and when you're hanging out with them, it brings you down, and then you go to that level.
Yeah.
So I try to stay in a positive way all the time. I try to create positive atmospheres. When I'm talking with people, I try to uplift them.
Yeah.
And this book, that's what this book is about, uplifting people so they can create goals and plans and get themselves moving in the direction they'd like to be.
One of the things that allowed me to be successful, now I taught for 35 years. I've written at least a dozen books. And there are a lot of things I can point to as successes in my life. One of the things I attribute it to is kind of my style. I am the kind of person who doesn't create one road and ride that road. I take 5 roads. And if 4 fail, then I have at least 1 success.
That's right.
So what generally happened was 4 succeeded. And maybe 1 failed. And I replaced that with another one. And the idea is to create winning moments so that you feel that you're doing something right. And even if everything you do isn't a success, if there are some things that are, that's what you focus on.
That's very true.
Focus on the successes.
And on top of that, even failures can be growth potentials.
There you go.
You know, I mean,
they're lessons learned.
They're lessons learned. And you know something? Even failures aren't always failures. If you get back up, you've succeeded. Because sometimes you get knocked down and then you don't get back up. Failures
are stumbling blocks that need to be overtaken.
That's true.
Sounds good.
Could I read a quote here?
Yeah, please do. I have to say, when you handed me that book and agreed to be on this show, I said, you know what? I better read a couple pages of this. I didn't stop until I was done. I read the entire book in one sitting because so many good gems are in there. Go ahead, read one of the quotes.
So this is think big and don't listen to people who tell you it can't be done. Life's too short to think small. For me, this is big because you don't know how many people told me that I was crazy to think that I could help change people. I changed myself first, and now my goal is to help change other people.
Bill, one of the hardest grades I had, because there were a lot of things going on in my life at the time with my parents, with moving from place to place, and so much was going on. 6th grade was very difficult for me. And we moved right when I was in 6th grade. And I had to go from one school, a much smaller school, to a bigger public school. And it was incredible. Well, I said, someday, I'm going to help 6th graders. Almost 30 of my 35 years of teaching was 6th grade.
That is great.
Because I realized what a tough grade that is, and what a tough time. This boy to man, girl to woman, and understanding that there's times when you want to quit, when everything just seems like it's going against you, and you don't know which way to go, and you kind of have to organize your brain. Well, another big turning point for me was when I was a junior in high school, and I went to the guidance counselor, and he said, "Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years from now?" And I said, "I don't know, maybe teaching." And he said, "Whoa, Vinny, listen to me. You're a popular kind of guy. You're all over the school. You know everybody. You're foreman material. You're in a city of factories. Opportunity is everywhere. You'll be a wonderful foreman someday. You'll practically run the floor that you work on. There's where you want to go." I said, "Nah, I want to be a teacher." He said, "You have to go to college for 4 years, and you have to study, you have to do a lot of homework, and your grades are not the greatest." I said, "I want to be a teacher." And I walked out of that office saying to myself, "I don't care what you say, I'm going to be a teacher." And I took that negative and I made it positive. And it wasn't until years later that I realized what an influence this man had on me, because his negativism built in me a need for the positive. And we have to take those negative moments and turn them into positive moments.
Well, it's kind of funny because, that's a negative influence, but turned into a great transformation.
There you go.
And that's what can happen. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative.
Yep.
Those kind of things can help.
What's that saying? If somebody gives you lemons, make lemonade.
That's exactly right.
Yep. Yeah. And it's really important. And, I've seen so many kids for so many years. And you could almost look out and say, here's a kid who's being influenced by negative influences. Here's a kid positive. And you hope that these kids are going to find a positive way as they move forward. Adults are the same way, where you need to find hope.
Yeah.
And you need to believe. And you need to believe in yourself. You need to find yourself. What I tell a lot of my writers, writing in that journal helped me find out who I was. I didn't know who I was. And the more you search, the more chance there is you'll find out who you really are and what you really want to do.
Right.
There was another quote in this book about successes, and it's amazing because one man's success is another man's failure.
That's very true. This book was really to help me become a better person. And when I put it all together, I said, you know what? I really think this makes sense, and I think that I can have the opportunity to help a lot of people grow and become the person they should be.
Right.
Because most people go through life just trudging along without thinking about it.
I call them sofa bums. You get these sofa bums. I grew up with a best friend who every time I wanted to go out somewhere, I had to go pull him off the couch.
Watching TV.
He's watching TV and just hanging there. And I say, come on, get dressed. He goes, why? Because there's a world out there. Yeah, there's a world here too. Hand me that remote. Yeah, and there's a point where you have to get off the sofa and do something and move forward. It's so easy to go on automatic pilot. Your book mentions that too, where you could just sit back and let life run you. You wake up in the morning, you have breakfast. You go to work, you have lunch. You get out of work, you come home, you have dinner, you sit in front of the TV, you go to bed, you wake up,
and you
have
repeat
breakfast, and it's just the same thing over and over again. And I call that automatic pilot. And if your life's on automatic pilot, you're going to go in the direction life takes you in.
That's
not
true.
the direction you need to go in. And you have to set realistic goals, but you do have to set goals.
That's right. Even unrealistic goals sometimes can be good because in life, many people, they want to go to the moon and they get halfway there, but maybe they should try for Mars and they'll get to the moon.
Yeah. When I write, people say to me, do you always know the ending of your book when you get started? And I go, sort of. And they go, what does that mean? I said, well, I know where I think I'm going. And then I begin to write. Once I know where I think I'm going, I can change it before I get there. But I keep moving in that direction toward it. And when I change it, all I'm doing is replacing it with another goal. If I don't put any, when I sit to write, you know what I'm going to face? An empty screen. And you get going and you don't know where you're going, so you kind of, there was an expression when I was teaching, they called it bird walking. And what happens is you get off your goal and you bird walk. And you have to find some goal. Even if you're willing to replace it, have a direction that you're heading in and know where you're going. So let's grab another quote. I love the quotes in this book.
I like this one. A mind that is stretched by a new experience can never go back to its old dimensions. Now, something? One of the things that I did getting to this place is I decided I wanted to be a public speaker. I was scared to death to talk to anybody. I could sit with 3 friends and have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
But that's really what speaking is. It's a conversation.
Yep.
So I went to Toastmasters. I took some classes there. I went to a seminar for 2 days on how to be a public speaker. And I remember I did my very first public speaking engagement at a library for 12 people, and it was about time and using your time in a useful way. I think I bored people out of their minds. It was my first experience, but it gave me a gateway to challenge myself. And since then, I've been able to do a couple more presentations, and they've been very good, and I've gotten good feedback from people. But it's called growth.
Yep. It's funny because I'm just the opposite. I grew up craving the audience. When I was 12 years old, I won a contest for fire prevention. And one of the prizes was that I got to stand on the fire truck with Sparky the dog and give a speech to my entire student body. And here I was on the fire truck, and all these faces were out there listening to me.
12 years old.
12 years old.
Wow.
And I was like, this is what I want to do. It felt so good. I was so turned on by all these people listening to what I had to say. Well, I've never left the lights. Here I am on the show for years. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to teach. I wanted to be at the front of the room. I wanted to be conducting the lecture. And I've been doing it ever since. Now, not everybody is like that.
That's true.
And I've seen so many people who just had a fear of that. Now, there are things that I fear, but that isn't one of them. So I focus on the thing that makes me feel right. And that's one of the things that you mentioned in your book. You've got to find who you are.
Yeah.
so many people end up in jobs they hate.
That's, this is a big thing, is that, one of the things that people want to do, especially like 17, 18, 19, 20, is they want to think about what is they really want to do in life and start to work towards that. Because what you said is true. Most people are doing something they don't want to do.
Yeah.
They don't like to do it.
They don't like it. It's a job. I've had, friends who got jobs from somebody else who said, I need a job, and they said, here, and it became their life career, and they hated it.
Yeah, even if it's good paying, it doesn't mean anything because your life is not worth what you're doing.
That's right. And if you get knots in your stomach on Sunday night, knowing that you have to go to work on Monday, get out of there.
That's right.
You're in the wrong place, and you have to find it. And sometimes you could do that by finding a lot of sub things, like joining writers clubs and joining the chess club, and just find things that satisfy your life. And if you're just bored stiff and you hate what you're doing, you need to change what you're doing. Change scares people.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody gets scared.
Yeah, you
of
mentioned
change.
that in the book, that, when people see that in order to get ahead, they have to change. No, they'd rather sit on the sofa and do this robotic lifestyle than change, because change is frightening. It is frightening.
It is frightening.
It's frightening, but a necessary fear that you have to overcome. So you do talk about overcoming fears.
I do.
And you talk about knowing who you are.
One of the big things about knowing who you are is knowing who you want to be with. And I don't want to make this sound like it's a bad thing, but you have family members and you have good friends that are really a negative thing for you.
There's people who will take you down.
And I don't want people to just go out and get rid of people, because you have to make changes slowly, because you don't want to make a mistake and do something that's really negative yourself.
Yeah.
But you do want to kind of distance yourself from the people that are not allowing you to grow.
Yeah, and so many people spend so much time correcting others that they don't see their own faults. And don't realize that the first person they have to change is the person in the mirror.
Here's this. Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world. Most people want to change the world. How about if we change ourselves?
Yeah.
And then the world will change.
Yeah, and see the positives. There's so many. There used to be this story that I used to tell about a homeless person who is walking down the street, and he gets to a hamburger place, and right next to the hamburger place, there's a grate in the sidewalk, and heat is coming up from the grate. And he walks over, and lo and behold, next to the grate, there's a blanket. And it's like 5 degrees outside. He sits on the grate, he puts the blanket over him, he's as warm as toast, and a guy comes out of the hamburger place and throws him a bag of hamburgers. And he's like, I am the luckiest guy in the world. Be in the moment, realize that what you have is something that somebody else would give anything for.
Yeah.
And understand that it's not having what you want. It's wanting what you have that really counts.
That's a great quote.
And that's really what it is, And you have to find what makes things right for you. And know that, what's that other great quote from a song? Some people live a lifetime for a moment like this. And you have your moment, and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
That people live a lifetime for what you have every single day of your life.
That's right.
Yep. Working towards the positive zone. So you wrote a book. You're trying to reach people. You're trying to help people understand that there's more to life than being a robot.
That's true. You want to get out there and just have new experiences and have ways to be a growth factor.
And take
in your
risks.
Life. Oh, take risks. Definitely.
Yeah. That if you don't take a risk, you're not going to know what it's like. There's another great quote. To something about if you don't try, if you don't lose, you you don't try or something. I don't know.
Well, if you don't try something new,
Yep.
you don't gain anything.
You don't gain anything.
You know?
And it's better to have lost than to try and lose than, I don't know. But the most important thing is, if you don't try, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to keep moving forward.
If I was to give anybody one piece of advice,
There we go.
just one big piece of advice, it would be to set goals for yourself.
Yeah.
Because the majority of people are not setting goals. Most people, I was never
Yep.
setting goals. I have a lot of goals in my life now.
Rolling stone gathers no moss.
My biggest goal today in my life is to help as many people as I can
Yeah.
become the person they were meant to be.
Yeah,
That's
there
my
you go.
goal.
And that's a wonderful goal. And in order to get there, and to help someone get there, you have to get there yourself.
That's right.
And you have to be in the right frame of mind. So, Bill, I love what you're doing, and you certainly are on the right track to get out there and help people be positive. I said before, there's a lot of role models out there that scare me to death.
Yeah.
People out there who look at the negative instead of accentuating the positive.
I think the biggest drawback for some of our role models is that they tell you that you want to make money. That's the only thing that's going to be successful is you make money. That's not
And
the truth.
that's what I love about your book. You talk about successes, and success isn't always money.
Right. You know, success is bringing your kids up and having great kids, right? That's a great success. Having a marriage that stays for 40 years, that's a great success.
And knowing that the people around you are succeeding because you're giving them the positive influence that they need to, and that gives you positive. Well, bad news. Here's the negative. The show's almost done. The positive is today we've given you a reason to move forward. Bill, I like what you're doing. I like The Positive Zone. It's a wonderful book. It made me feel very positive. It made me feel that I had a purpose. Thank you for being our purpose.
Thank you for
being
having
here
me.
today.
I really appreciate it. It was a
Pleasure.
lot of fun.
Keep doing what you're doing. There's a lot of people out there who need to be pushed forward. Be all you can be. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here with us. Tune in every week to One on One.